Devolver Digital is rejecting offers from PlayStation Plus as well as Xbox Game Pass because they feel their games are being undervalued, and this is not exactly how it used to be. It seems that the offers are coming in lower than they used to be. And I'm going to look at a couple of articles, at least two from pushsquare.com, about why exactly they felt their games are being undervalued, but also we're going to be looking at the fact that spending for these subservices is starting to plateau. But before we do that, I really want to talk about my own theory that I've had for a while about indie titles and subservices, specifically with day and date. When you take a brand new title and you put it on a subscription service like PS Plus or Game Pass, and you do it the day the game comes out. I think there are times where this was very beneficial to an indie title because they could essentially have their entire next project funded by simply doing an offer with Microsoft or PlayStation. Like, they're going to write you a really fat check. You don't really have to worry about sales, and then you're essentially funded for your next project. But it can be sort of antithetical to the success of an indie title when they can make a ton more off of sales, especially when there may be a smaller studio, and that money's going to go a lot further. I always reference Death's Door selling over 100,000 copies its first week on Steam. It's two people, right? So that money is really getting split up nicely between those two. And then they were able to sort of fund bringing Death's Door to other platforms. So you have to be very careful, I think, when you're an indie studio with an indie title, not necessarily just immediately taking that day and date subscription. I've consistently thought that over time, indies would be less valued by Game Pass, especially because Game Pass really is looking for that day and date push. And the more and more populated that Game Pass funnel becomes with larger titles like Starfield and the Activision Blizzard deal going through, will then mean all of those Activision Blizzard titles will be in there. Seeing a Game Pass funnel full of Call of Duty or titles like Diablo 4 that are large, more monolithic, more recognizable, that can really drown out the indie games. And I've said, long term, that would mean that Microsoft would start offering those indie studios less money. Well, it seems that's already happening. They're already having lower offers that makes it more difficult for companies like Devolver and smaller studios and smaller developers to accept those deals. I've consistently said that I think indies need to be leveraged in a different way on subservices, and I think that especially with ID at Xbox, not the developer ID, but literally ID at Xbox. It's their independent developer program. And they run really cool things sometimes where they just put a bunch of demos out there for you to play. And I think it'd be really cool if when you went to Game Pass, there was an entire section for ID at Xbox where you could do trials. And these would be just for Game Pass subscribers. So this would be another great perk for being on Game Pass. You could have trials of these indie games, but then if you like them, you'd buy them, right? And I would imagine that if you play an hour of an indie title and you really like it, think of games that have really impressed us recently with games like Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Ori and the Blind Forest, Hollow Knight, smaller games that have really wowed the public and gotten lots of notoriety. Well, if you play a game like that for an hour and the price point's $20 or $30, I would think that you're more likely to buy it, especially when you're seeing the fact that, like, hey, I got to play this as a perk of Game Pass. That would foster a culture of purchase with respect to indie titles, because I do think they are in the more precarious position. The larger studios tend to have larger budgets, way more marketing, and they're going to generate more sales naturally when they're that large. Like, as bad as Diablo 4 might look right now with its player base numbers, it did incredible commercially, okay? They sold a ton of games, and that is definitely an advantage when you're a large, recognizable IP, when you have a marketing budget that can, get famous actors to promote your game like Megan Fox. So you're going to basically have that advantage over indies. And from where I sit, indies will be continually put at a disadvantage with respect to PlayStation Plus and Game Pass if larger titles are in there. Now, I know typically with PlayStation Plus, they put lots of indies there later, and I think that sometimes can create a surge of interest. Like, oh, all of a sudden, everybody's talking about a game again. This is not an indie game, but that happened with Days Gone, right? Days Gone hit PS Plus, like a year or two later, and it wasn't buggy and it wasn't glitchy anymore, and nobody knew why the game got bad reviews. They're like, what? This game's great. What's the problem? Well, it launched in a really bad state, and that's why it got bad reviews. So I want to look, though, at what Devolver Digital said. Let's take a look at this Push Square article from Liam Croft that says, indie firm Devolver Digital rejected PS Plus, Xbox Game Pass deals over undervalued games. And it says here that new fiscal results belonging to indie publisher Devolver Digital have revealed the company is beginning to reject deals from Sony and Microsoft to put titles on Xbox Game Pass and PS Plus, building on reports of subscription fatigue. We're going to look at that. Actually, they have another article. Pushware's got an article about fatigue with subscription services and plateaus. That's very interesting to look at in light of how much Game Pass needs to grow, how much they're no longer giving us the PS Plus numbers. They have likely plateaued as well. And it says here that where consumer spending is concerned, Devolver Digital claims it has turned down multiple proposals from platform holders as the offers, quote, undervalued the titles, value, and revenue opportunities in 2023 and 2024. So I actually have a lot of respect for this, okay? It'd be really easy to accept less money. You know, maybe they're not offering as much as they used to. Maybe they're not offering as much as you think that they should. But it'd be really tempting to just do it, just because it's guaranteed. And, you know, you don't know if the game's going to sell well. Now, obviously, Devolver, I went and looked at the GameIndustry.biz article about this. They're confident they have some titles that are going to do very, very well, like Human Fall Flat 2, the sequel to Human Fall Flat. So I applaud that, them being like, no, we're not doing that. You aren't paying us enough. We think these titles are going to do very well on their own. I think that shows a little chutzpah, right? They're a little confident. They're like, what do you... we got great titles, even though they're indie, even though they're smaller studios, so we're not going to accept less money just because you don't value us as much as you may have in the past. Like, Xbox was probably writing larger checks in the earlier stages. They really wanted to fill the Game Pass funnel. They really wanted a good cadence of games. They were lacking in first-party titles for cadence, so they were, seeking out big third-party titles, but they were probably also willing to write larger checks for the indies as well. Now, the article continues here that says, the move has resulted in lower revenue streams from subscription services, although the company is expected to get back on track as a whole next year, as many of its high-profile titles have been delayed to 2024. That's where the Game Industry Biz article was helpful in pointing they've got some games that they think are going to do really well. This was done to ensure that they, quote, have time, effort, and support to succeed, one of which was the promising indie game, The Plucky Squire. But then here we get into some of the differences between how indie titles have shown up traditionally on Game Pass versus PS Plus. It says here, its decision to turn down PS Plus and Xbox Game Pass deals most likely pertains to getting those titles on subscription services on the same day they release, meaning the door is still open for Devolver Digital games becoming part of the membership further down the line. So they're not saying that we're against going on these sub-services. They're saying we're not doing that day and date because we can sell, we've got titles that people recognize, and we could make money from the sales. And if the offers coming in, according to Game Industry Biz, that they're just not big as they were, we're going to see that in the next paragraph. And so if the offers are coming in lower than they traditionally were, they're going to bank on and bet on sales instead. Right here you can see PS Plus Extra currently has access to PS5 and PS4 titles like The Messenger, Inscription, Observation, The Talos Principle, and My Friend Pedro. Those are all fantastic games, by the way. Make sure and check them out. However, it doesn't sound like Baby Steps, the goofy one where the guy's trying to walk and you control each leg independently. It really reminds me of Getting Over It, the guy where you're in the bucket and you're trying to climb over all this stuff by swinging your arms around. The Talos Principle 2, so we got a sequel, and then Wizard with a Gun. Now, they don't make mention of it here, but Human Fall Flat 2, they made mention in this GameIndustry.biz article, they made mention of that title in particular and said that they thought it would do very well with sales. And I don't doubt it. Human Fall Flat was kind of a surprise hit. Everybody loved it. Everybody talked about it. It's hilarious. I had really hilarious streams with my man Hilly. I used to do Friday night streams with him. Now I do Friday night streams with my wife for members only. We're going to do a return of that, though, so keep your eyes open for that. Whenever that game finally comes out, we're really excited. So, and here they speak on the smaller checks coming through. Speaking to GameIndustry.biz, technology and video gaming analyst Patrick O'Donnell said, quote, the checks coming from Sony and Microsoft are just not as big as they were, and that creates problems if you're concentrated on that side of the market. And it doesn't surprise me at all that the checks coming in are smaller because sub-services have plateaued. And one of the quickest ways to recoup or make more money on your sub-service when they've plateaued is, number one, you charge more money. And they've both done that. Game Pass increased its prices, so you got to imagine they've got 25 million subscribers and they bump it by $1. That's a lot of money. They bumped it by, I think, $2 or almost close to $2 on the higher tier. And then PlayStation just decreased the annual bundle. Like when you bundle PS Plus, you don't save as much. They didn't raise the per month cost, but they did lower the discount. So if you bundle PS Plus extra or premium or any of that, you're going to save less money. So what that does is that generates more revenue from all of the people that are subscribing. And then when you write smaller checks to the companies that are going to be on your subservice, that also then helps your margins because now your expenses are going down. So this is not abnormal, and here's why. This article touches on it, right? PS Plus, Xbox Game Pass spending has completely plateaued in the United States. So this is where they get the bulk of their business on a lot of these things, right? The US market does very well with gaming spending, and it's plateaued on its subservices. Discussion at the start of the generation was dominated by Sony's reluctance to release its flagship first-party software into subscriptions like PS Plus, and how this decision was going to bring an end to its market-leading position. That hasn't panned out, however, and data from Circana shows that consumer spending in the sector is completely plateaued. So I would actually say that PlayStation made the right choice because they didn't do it. Xbox has been doing it, and they're both experiencing the plateau. So I don't think that, like, if PlayStation would have been like, oh, no, yeah, we're going to throw God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Forbidden West on PS Plus day and date, I don't think that would have changed this reality. This is market-wide. This is affecting this is affecting Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, as well as PS Plus and Game Pass. Market-wide, global spending on subservices is plateauing out. I showed a chart on stream a while back when we were discussing this. We were talking about the future of Game Pass and how I believe it's headed for failure. And they showed the plateau. It basically started in 2021. So for 2 years, it hasn't really gone up. And that was sort of like, that was all of that type of subscription spending. It wasn't just Xbox. It wasn't just PlayStation. So if they're experiencing that plateau, makes sense why indie titles are getting smaller offers. And it makes sense why they're not really talking about their numbers anymore. And I think PlayStation's probably breathing a sigh of relief that they didn't put their big first-party titles on there, because their big first-party titles generate a lot of revenue for them, and they would have generated less revenue if their sub-funnel was able to play the games without buying them. Moving on in the article, it says, while more and more people signed up to services like Xbox Game Pass during the pandemic, revenue has peaked at around $400 million per month after first reaching that figure in November of 2021, almost 2 years ago. Okay, so this lines up with what I just said, right? It's basically plateaued since 2021, so there you go. GamesIndustry.biz elaborates. Subscription fatigue, fewer available dollars for discretionary spending due to higher food and gas prices, slow mass market adoption of cloud gaming, and a strong slate of new premium releases may be contributing factors to the slowdown. You got to consider PlayStation's refusal to put their big first-party titles on the subservice is playing a role with their own plateau. Now, this isn't affecting Game Pass, but because they're all plateauing. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if people were like, I'm not signing up for PS Plus. I'm saving my pennies. I got to buy Horizon Forbidden West. I got to buy Ragnarok. Like this year, you got to buy a Burning Shores DLC, Final Fantasy 16, Spider-Man. A lot of the reports indicate that a lot of gamers buy and play 2 to 3 games a year. And it stands to reason if you're on a platform that's releasing big titles around that cadence, you're just going to save your money for those things instead of doing subservice model. So I do think Sony not putting their first-party titles on the subservice did play a role, but not in the way that you think. It's not like people would have signed up for way more for PS Plus if it was there. It's that instead of signing up for PS Plus, they're kind of saving their money for those big premium purchases. Let's keep reading. GamesIndustry.biz elaborates. Subscription fatigue, fewer available. Oh, I already read that. Sorry. Right here. Let's continue. Our view is that gaming subscriptions don't have quite the same appeal as movies and music. While other entertainment mediums can, by their nature, be quite passive, gaming demands your full attention at all times, and many consumers are content playing 1 to 2 titles they like per year, many of which are even free to play. So that lines up with what I was just saying, like the average consumer basically saying, I'll play 1 to 3 titles a year. I don't need a subservice. I don't need a giant funnel of 100 games to play. It's great when you have kids because, they have shorter attention spans and they'll install a game and play it for an afternoon and then they're kind of done with it. But outside of that, the lion's share of the consumer base of video games is like 27 years old and up, and they're spending lots of money. They have disposable income, and so they don't want to waste it on something that's just giving them quantity over quality. They're willing to buy those individual purchases in those individual games. Outside of the core gamer market, there's likely a lot less demand for an enormous catalog of content available at all times. Like I just said, I just think there's less demand for a massive catalog. I myself find myself in those situations where it's like I'd rather just rent the movie or buy the movie instead of scroll through Netflix for 20 minutes, right? Sony, to its credit, has been smart with its alterations to PS Plus. It's managed to retain its roughly 50 million or so active members and enticed a handful of them to upgrade to PS Plus Extra or PS Plus Premium. This means it successfully increased the average revenue it's earning per user, maximizing its income without undermining its already very successful business model. I gotta say that's well stated, not to come across like I'm just praising Sony here, but I think they have a better blend that's more elastic, like it's more moldable to say we're going to charge top premium price for really big flagship titles like Spider-Man 2 is going to sell like crazy. That's tons of revenue for them, but they've also managed to maintain a good sub base. Even if it's plateaued, you're maintaining. And, with raising prices and having upgrade options, they're able to maximize the revenue that's there. All of this makes sense, though, why they're offering people like Devolver Digital less money, right? I would imagine that consumers could even start to say, as sub prices go up for PS Plus and Game Pass, that doesn't bode well for indie titles. Why? Are you really going to feel good about spending more on a sub service if it's just full of indies? Does that make sense? Like, aren't you going to look at that and say, wait, where are all the big games? This is where the Activision Blizzard funnel can really help Xbox. They could say, listen, our price is going up, but look at all of the big titles we have within the subservice. Okay, that kind of justifies it. If you go to an increasing subservice model like PS Plus and it's a lot of indies, you might say this isn't really worth it. What am I spending money for? This is where the cadence of first-party titles coming to PS Plus is likely important to Sony maintaining its subservice funnel, because, if titles like God of War hit it every once in a while or Spider-Man hit it every once in a while, at least you are seeing a cadence of larger titles. Because if the price keeps going up over the next, 5 or 10 years, and the population of the library is dominated by indies, that doesn't bode well for indies, because they're going to get offered less money because of everything we've already talked about, and then they're going to be seen as a devaluation of the subservice because I'm paying more than I ever did, and it's mostly indie titles. So I think this is a time where I hope we continue to see the resurgence of the indie, and I hope the market bears it. I hope the market supports and buys the indie games instead of feeling like they're not worth it. And the culture of non-spending, I believe, is a threat. We want to see subservices additive. It's a great bargain. It's a great additive thing to have this sort of thing off to the side that's got all these great titles for you to play, but it's not the be-all, end-all. It's not the centrality, because it devalues games. It's already devaluing indies. What's next after that? If you like this kind of content, you want to interact with me, become a member. We're about to go to members only debrief. That's typically how these videos end. They roll over and redirect into a members only debrief. So hit the join button, join us, tell me I'm wrong, debate me, talk to me, all those different things. If you're not going to do a membership, but you don't want to miss my content, make sure you hit subscribe, the bell button, and that like button, and I'll see you in the next video.